Good evening, chat. Hello and welcome. It's Friday night, and well, you guys can hear there's another dog barking. So yes, that dog's not letting me pick it up, but we'll get to it at some point. You guys will meet Bon Bon the Papillon, but just not tonight. Not tonight. Oh, let's see. Oh, you guys, somebody built a Clyde Tower already? Aw. CLYDE. That's right, chat. The only self tower you can build, the Clyde Tower. But anyways, welcome. It's Friday night, and it's getting chilly. I mean, it was kind of nice. It was like 77 today. It's like a beautiful day, but now we're getting that chilly fall air, and we're almost to October. Can you guys fucking believe it? I can't believe it. Almost October, and we got the whole team showing up in here now. Hold on one second. Hold on one second, chat. Anyway, chat, we're back. Sorry. Couldn't get the one dog, but I got the other dog. We got Clyde. You'll have to settle for Clyde tonight, which is such a suffering and such a settlement. You know, here he is. He's doing good tonight. Hi, Bubba. What's wrong? What's wrong, Bubba Bear? Oh, 2.0 came into the room for a second and left. Now he's like, I gotta go! There you go, buddy. Oh. But anyways, guys, welcome to the show. Yes, he is the star. Yes, it's Clyde content. It is Clyde content, and it's never bad. It's never a bad time for Clyde content. It's never bad. Never, ever bad. But yeah, we're getting to the point where Bon Bon the dickhead. No, Bon Bon's a nice dog. Sean in a sweater. Yeah. But anyways, yeah, it's getting chilly, which it's kind of the best time of the year. You can still have the windows open and it's getting chilly. And we're getting to the point right before you start throwing extra blankets on the bed. So we're almost there. Dunkin' Donuts is not selling pumpkin muffins this year. Only soda in New England. Well, suffer. I'm like, I don't know. I like pumpkin pie, but I'm not a big pumpkin everything else. So I guess that sucks. The disgusted Clyde. Yes, he's sad. Late spring rules. Yeah, I know, but we're also at the time where like driving down I-90 the past like 2-3 weeks, you've been seeing the trees like explode with color. Although the temperature has been so hot for so long, they immediately go like red and it's like brown. So fall's going to kind of suck overall. It was 85 in Pennsylvania. Wow. That sucks. Vanguard finally caved. You'll buy Clyde coin soon. Well, there you go. Final Revolution says we're about to get hurricaned. I didn't know there was a hurricane right now. All right. Well, anyways, let's get the show rolling here, guys. I am potentially criminal. Also known as Sean. I'm an attorney in the Cleveland, Ohio area, and we are going to get into Russell Greer and the Greer roach. We've got the pig roach, we got the pig roach, we got the Turk roach, now we got the Greer roach. I don't know what we call him, the Greer roach, the drool roach. I don't know. But as a thing that keeps surviving everything, Russell Greer managed to survive once again. And I mean, it's a thing. I will, that's the thing about Russell Greer. He is a survivor. He can suffer. Well, yes, much of that suffering is aimless and needless and totally self-inflicted. He has this impressive ability just to keep suffering, and he does so, like I said, rather impressively. For some reason, he feels compelled to suffer, and I don't understand why. But the suffering he does is impressive. The existence he's willing to put up with. Russell Greer's cover for body cam videos, no. Yes, the guy who takes hookers to Olive Garden, yes. And if you guys remember, Russell Greer is a lolcow. He was a lolcow before the Farms found him. Russell Greer is, prior to the Farms, was famous for trying to sue Taylor Swift, basically to get a date with Taylor Swift. He has this deluded, insane belief that, Taylor Swift will see his songs, think he's a musical genius, marry him, and then, sorry, that was the one thing when Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce got engaged. Oh God, man. I don't know. Was Russell Greer sitting there in his apartment just looking at a 12 gauge shotgun at the muzzle going, maybe today, Fred. Maybe today, man. And then he puts it in his mouth, but he drools so much it fucking deadened the primers. Him trying to shoot a gun when he drools into it, it's like a gun going off underwater, and it explodes in the chamber, so it doesn't hurt him. He's like, man, I can't kill myself. I don't know. Yes, the lip roach. There we go. The lip roach. That's a good one. I like that. If you ain't paying cash money talking to hoes in LA, you ain't living. Yes, he also did sue Ariana Grande and America's Got Talent. He basically sued Ariana Grande for, once again, basically to go on a date with her. He also took a hooker out to he bought a hooker, was renting the hooker, took the hooker to Olive Garden, and the hooker was very smart, ran up the clock at Olive Garden, and therefore Russell had no more time and ran the meter out, and then he sued for that. Yes, he sued a lot of different people. He sued a lot of different people on things. Now, what is he suing the Farms for? Well, he made a bunch of Taylor Swift songs. He made a bunch of songs. He also wrote a book called Why I Sued Taylor Swift. It became known as a crazy and litigious retard or something like that. I don't know. And who cares? People came onto the Farms and posted a Google Drive link, which was hosting the content. Two people, Mosef Jartelli and Rustard, were two accounts there. And Russell Greer has sued the Farms for a contributory copyright infringement. And it's the idea that the Farms knew about it and didn't do anything to stop it. Therefore, they contributed to this. And Russell Greer ended up getting his case up to the 10th Circuit, the 10th Federal Circuit. And for some reason, mainly because it's the Farms is on one side of the lawsuit, they ruled his case survives a motion to dismiss. And we've been dealing with this now for almost 2 years at this point, on top of the previous 4 years. So this case has been dragging along and dragging along and dragging along. So that's kind of that's the quick time frame there. Dimes and Henna says, when's your cooking stream? I don't know. It'll be me cooking a steak probably if I ever do it. So I don't know. Sometime, maybe. I don't know. Pirate Tomsky says he soiled the bullets. Yes. Maddie B says, why would you take a hooker to a restaurant? Because he doesn't have that interaction with a normal woman. So he wants the girlfriend experience is what he's trying to do. Because he can't get a girlfriend. So he's trying to do the girlfriend experience on his own, which it's like, take your fucking girlfriend to Olive Garden. I get it if you're in high school or in college, but yeah, he wanted the girlfriend experience exactly. Gabriel says, what generation Glock 17? That's just a normal, it's a Gen 3. Back here, it's just a Gen 3. It's, that's everything 3D printed is Gen 3 for the most part. Hoes be like lawyers, always be billing. Yeah. Hoes are like attorneys, man. The meter's always running. The farms always wins, like maybe in the long term, but as of lately, Russell's gotten a great. Russell's the one surviving. We're the ones suffering now. Watch me clean out a Denny's. I mean, probably could, man. I like eating breakfast. And yes, this is the thing. Russell's kept this case going for 6 years. Through mainly the court's refusal to want to deal with it. But hey, you're so loathsome, even the court doesn't want to fucking waste time on you. That is an impressive skill set. Yes, it is an impressive skill set. The dagger's Gen 3 as well. Tim Beatty says every 6 minutes. Yes, I think that's how attorneys should do it anyway. 1/10 of an hour. I mean, that's the fairest way to bill someone. Anderson Cooper says New York strip is a good cut. That's actually my favorite cut of steak. Favorite cut of meat. You want to cook up. As long as it's a decent cut, it's really hard to fuck up. Even if you cook it medium, it's still pretty good. If you get medium rare, though, like there's a nice little range there where it's just absolutely perfect. And even if it's not the best cut of meat, a New York strip, you can really any steak. You can take a pretty shitty cut and turn it into something wonderful. So, I mean, I think that, as far as what you can, like, I could run out to the grocery store and get right now. Yes, the New York strip is the best cut. Now, there are better things, like you can get a tomahawk and all those different things that are out there. Yeah, those are like the best, but the just general purpose, I want a steak, or for any regular occasion, a New York strip steak is very hard to beat. I think, at least. Also in contention's a good flank steak, just get it marinated very nicely. A good flank steak is also a wonder to enjoy. I got eye boogers. Chad. I'm boogered! Kara says, are 3D printing guns legal there? Yes, Ohio has no rules on that. Ohio has no laws on 3D printed guns. You think the courts want to screw with the farms? I could see that. As well. I could see that as well. And yes, there was also the transfer to Florida, but that was a really quick thing. I didn't include that as a story just because it's part of the thing there. But if you guys do want to check, I do have a Russell Greer playlist I put together down below after somebody asked me, and I kind of ignored it like for 2-3 months. There finally is a Russell Greer playlist, and we'll throw this in there. But it is ow. I had to adjust my earphone cup. Give me all the bacon you have. Like, I'm not the best. Like, I'd rather have sausage and bacon. I've never had a ribeye before. I've had ribeye, but it's just for the price. Generally, at least around here in my experience, if I'm not going to the butcher shop, if I'm going to like Giant Eagle or Kroger or wherever, or Meijer, or even Walmart, I'm not buying Walmart Wagyu. Buy fucking New York strip steak from Walmart. Easy peasy. Yes, ribeyes are good too. There are other better, like there's just overall it's kind of like the Glock 19 of steaks is the New York strip. Porterhouse is good. Porterhouse is very good. So you say the filet mignon? I mean, yeah. Like, yeah, filet mignons are okay. Like, the filet is all right. Like, I don't not enjoy it. But, I mean, that's not my favorite. It's not my favorite. There's something about when you get a New York strip and you got that, like, you can get the fat all crisped up on the side. You get that little thin layer of it on there, just crisped up, and, get it all nice and, the butter is nice and caramelized on there with some, like, thyme and garlic in there. And it's hard to beat. So. Tomahawk's overrated. I know, but when I had one, I didn't pay for it, so it was really good. It was really good. I didn't bother with it because I didn't bother the price. But yes, when you see people buy those, I'm just like, I don't think that's worth it. Strip steak is underrated. Yeah. Yep. Hanger steak versus is greater than a flank steak. Yeah, yeah, but I'm pretty sure like the flank is so much cheaper. That's part of the tomahawk is a $10 bone. Yeah. Um, Costco sells this 18-pound. Oh, it's yeah. Well, you can cut down on the steaks. Yeah. Um, yeah. Well, you can do that. You can, we do that every once in a while, especially if it's on sale. You buy like the loin, and you can cut up, pork chops, and you cut up all that stuff. Yeah, it's not that hard to do. And if you guys like, if you don't know how to cut and clean up and butcher things, there's like all kinds of stuff on YouTube for that. So yeah, you can do that. Um, you just ate sketty. Well, that's not bad tonight. Let me see here. I was late because I was watching Trains. Filet is overrated. I mean, it's not over. I guess it is overrated. But I mean, most of the time it's anywhere enjoyable. You got to like wrap it up in bacon, or it's got to like no, like a good steak you can just eat and it's steak. Even if you don't do the whole butter basting and all that, just some salt, some pepper, throw it on, and then flip it over. And after a couple minutes, you got a steak. I mean, I like mine just warmed and barely warm in the center. I like it. I like medium rare. Medium rare is like the best way to go. So, and I remember when I was like, I remember as a kid, I was like 12, 13 years old. We would go places and you could get stuff. They ask you how you want something done. You'd say medium rare. And I remember one time the waiter looked at my dad, and my dad was like, "You heard him, medium rare." Can you become a slack-jawed moron and get the tard guard? See, that's what Russell should sell. Russell should be like, actually, you know what, Russell? I've got an idea for you. You can make money by helping people. So at Disney World for a while, people were doing that where they would get those, they would hire somebody who's disabled to come with them and claim, oh, they're our family member. So that way the family member could get the ride passes to go up to the front of the line, get on the ride. That way their disabled relative wasn't waiting forever. And it became a scam. Like people were renting out their time as a disabled person for like free trips to Disneyland and like, extra money on the side. And for Russell, you could call it like Tard Guard. You could like, I'll give your lawsuit insurance. I'm like a talisman of you're not going to get your case dismissed right away. And Russell just shows up in the case as an additional party and goes, meh. And it just gives you, it's like a force field. It's like in Halo. Master Chief takes the force field and just, that's how Russell could make money here. Russell can make money here, man. Hold on one second. Chat, give me 1 second. I'll be right back here. I gotta take care of something. Gotta take Clyde to the piano lessons. Hold on, guys. Hold on. All right, chat. Sorry about that. All right, so let's pick up where we left off. Where we left off, Russell Greer had to pay the $1,500 that he owed the farms by August 18th, or he was going to face dismissal. And we thought that was actually going to happen because, was Russell actually ever going to pay? Because he never pays. He always finds an excuse to bitch and moan. Well, believe it or not, Russell did pay. Surprisingly, he paid. Russell Greer bent the knee. You're like, Russell, man, why would you do this, Russell? You bent the knee to the court. The judge punked you, and you're like, yes, judge. After your years and years of being recalcitrant and defying the court and the court orders repeatedly, Russell Greer finally bent the knee and paid up. Like a good sucker, he paid up. He paid up. He paid up. How you doing, emergency keg stand? That's a pretty strong fucking keg, let me tell you. All right. So what? Russell paid up. Russell paid up. Oh, hold on. Who's messaging me? Oh, hold on here. Hold on, chat. That's actually an important text. So, is he related to Rosie Greer? I don't think so. I can't believe I bowed to Greer and removed his data. Well, YouTube, the Patels and the Pajeets here on YouTube have determined that I am bullying him by releasing that information. So it's the only way it shows up. It's the only way it shows up. So here we go. So what happened? So Russell Greer filed a notice of supplemental authority August 19th, 2025. We left off of the previous filing. And if you guys don't remember here, actually, we need to go back to this real quick. This was an order from the 31st of July. Russell had said, look, I can't get the payment in on time. So the plaintiff was ordered to pay $1,500 sanctions total on or before August 18th. And he asked that because he said his pay periods don't align and he's unable to get the $1,500 by August 5th. So the court granted him a final extension. And they said failure to pay will result in the court entering an order to show cause requiring to demonstrate why the case should not be dismissed. And it probably will get dismissed if he didn't pay. So that is where we are for Russell. That's why we're called Russell. Tim's saying, why is it called a supplemental authority? Because it's just well, I don't know why Russell did that as a supplemental. He could have just done this as a notice to the court. But either way, it's all right. You're basically giving the court more information that doesn't require a new motion. So his periods didn't align. Yes. Russell's pregnant. Yes, he's expecting. Turin Turnbar says, is there a payment plan? No, he's told to pay it all up. He has a lump sum he has to pay. He has a lump sum he has to pay. So getting back to this, very short and sweet. It says plaintiff files the following, and this really should have just been a notice to the court, but no, the notice was on the defense, so Hardin had to file this, but Russell went ahead on his own. And he said, I paid $1,274.75 on 8/19/19. $225.25 was deducted from the court-ordered $1,500 because the defendants had agreed to subtract that from their owed appeals cost. Remember, Russell won his appeal, so the cost for that appeal, $225. The farms did owe, And previously there had been some discussions about that, and that had been worked out where that was an acceptable answer. But even then, when Russell tried to deduct the original 1,000, with the 225, he kept on balking. So he just, for no reason of his own, for no reason that makes sense, Russell Greer agreed to pay another $500 to the farms. Instead of paying $700, Russell decided to pay $1,200, which makes no sense. But it's Russell Greer, and it says, "Signed, Russ Greer." So there you go. He paid up. He paid up like a good sucker, and he provides his, using Zoom, his transfer number to Matthew Hardin from Russell Greer, and it was sent. And he shows all this stuff up here. That's not the best verification, but we get better verification here because we get a proper verification. And this is how you would do it. That makes the best sense and how I would have done it personally. But remember, Russell's an idiot. So he did it this way. And it's the defendant's status. Oh, God, I hate it when it does that. You put it right there and you get up in the corner. It's a status report pursuant to the court order. And that's how you do it. It's a notice or a report pursuant to things. So they were told, pursuant to the court's order, in 347 and modified at 352, they were told to provide updates. So notice, Russell had by the 18th. And it says, on August 20th, the defendants received a payment from Russell Greer in the amount of $1,274. And they say that the exhibit appears to have been cropped so it doesn't accurately reflect the sanctions were paid 2 days after the extended deadline. Yes. And it says to complete the record, the defendants attach proof of the Zoom transactions and their unedited forms. Nevertheless, the defendants do agree Russell has belatedly brought himself into compliance with the court's orders. Yes, they have to agree. Look, he finally complied. And they say, as Greer notes, the 225 deduction was an offset for the funds he claims he is owed as a result of the appeal. The defendant's position is therefore that they have satisfied any obligations they have had to Greer as a result of that order. And yes, that's a nice little thing there. We've complied with everything Russell wants. That's a neat little way of getting into things here. And they say, notably, Greer has inexplicably attempted to claim in recent days that he's actually owed $350 in costs rather than $225. And they say presumably as a result of his order at number 56. They assume Russell Greer has retreated from this position as set forth. Nevertheless, the defendants preserve their correspondence on that issue to ensure the record is complete. This is proper lawyering. You guard yourself and your client. You don't concede anything. We're going to get to this $350 thing here. So they talk about the offset that they owe, and that's just where you deduct it. Penalties. The penalties offset for whatever they're done here. Signed, Matthew Hardin, attorneys for Joshua Moon and Lawcow LLC. Now, this is where we get to Russell Greer's stuff here. And yes, this is now Russell Greer showing proof of things. So Zoom is a PayPal service. Russell Greer did it August 19th at 5:54 a.m. So he couldn't even do it at the right time. So the $1,200 being sent for deposit on August 20th at 3 a.m. Eastern time. He couldn't do it the right way. Would a court dismiss it for that? I don't think so in the situation. They tard guard Russell all the time, but this is just the big fuck you that he does. This is the big fuck you that he does. So, just as another fuck you from Russell. And notice what Russell did. He just had this part. He just sent this part right here. Russell didn't send the rest of this, which, you mean to tell me Russell Greer would be dishonest? No way. No way. And this is just Exhibit A, or Exhibit 1. I don't like this. He had Exhibit A, B. He used to ABC. Now he's like doing 1, 2, 3. It's like, stick with it, Matt. It says, subject, money has arrived at Russell's bank. My money is in the bank. So they said the Matthews Bank is processing the $1,200 and will report. And yes, it had on track to be cleared by August 20th. Another update. We get to this one here. And this is where Russell talks about the $350. And it's so weird that it comes out of nowhere. It comes out of nowhere here. So Russell on August 1st said, so the amount I'll be sending you is $1,150, right? The $350 your client owes me is subtracted from that, just making sure. And I think Russell Greer's like, I think it's in the first Friday. I forget what movie it is. It's like Chris Tucker is a black guy and he's trying to pay some dude off. And he's got like a handful of 20s. So he's like 20, 40, 60, 80. And he grabs it and he flips it over. And he's like 100, 120, 140. Russell Greer is trying to do this, like, this scammer thing where it's like, yeah, it's $1,100, right? You guys owe me $350. And this is total scammer bullshit by Russell. How do you fucking forget? I mean, the only other thing I can think of is Russell must owe somebody $1,100 and he's having problems with that. But clearly, I think Russell is trying to scam the farms and all of them by trying to do that. But I don't think he understands that if that were the case, all it takes is the court saying, wait, it was $1,200, not $1,100. And yeah, Russell's trying to jerk them out of $125, which I just don't. It's Russell Greer, though, so it's hard to understand why he's doing what he does. And then Matt Harden responds a minute later. I didn't talk to him about this, but I'm sure that had to be like, Harden's like, oh no, he's going to be retarded here. And he says, I'm not sure at all why you think we owe $350. Check your previous emails. We've been over this multiple times. Big old tardo, Russell Greer. And just to show proof that Russell Greer knows what's going on, we come to all of this. And this is previous emails being provided to show Russell already agreed. Like, for example, August 15th at 9:30. And, this has been an ongoing thing here. So in February, Matthew Harden wrote to Russell, I agree with your math that $774.75 is the net judgment. And this is before he got the $500 sanction on top of his $1,000 sanction. And he had a $225 credit, basically. And this is Russell back in February also talking about this as well. And they just go back and forth for a little while about this. And they're going back and forth to address this. But ultimately here, I love this from Harden here, where he goes, exactly 6 months ago, we had the below exchange in which you claimed you were owed $225. And we graciously agreed. That you could offset that amount against the $1,000 in sanctions. In the intervening 6 months, you've not paid the $1,000, which is now increased to $1,500. On August 1st, you suddenly claimed without explanation you owe $350 rather than $225. There's no basis at all for that demand other than your own greed or failure to check the pleadings. And once again, I think this is Russell trying to scam. I 100% think this is % Russell trying to scam. It really is. There's no other reason why he would do this. That was his Olive Garden bill. Yes. Yes, Anderson Cooper's right. $1,500? Why do you need $1,500? Why should I give you $1,200? I don't see any reason you need to get $100 from me. They're like, how dare you ask me for $500? The nerve of you. Yes, he is Olive Garden bill, yeah. He's doing the cashback change scam. Yeah. That was Friday? And that was Smokey on Friday? Okay. That's what I thought, but I wasn't sure. So. Russell will demand the $350 in the future. I could see him trying to do that. Yes, the entire lawsuit is him scamming to extort a demand from Knoll. It is, but It's just nakedly doing it now. He's out in the open. Naked scammer. Naked snake. And then Harding goes on to say, I write to remind you the deadline for us to receive the payment is August 18th. You have previously complained that if I do not remind you of your obligation to obey court orders, that is somehow the defendant's fault. So this is a friendly reminder email. We expect timely payment. And Harding is still being very professional. Best. Not even govern yourself accordingly. Just best or regards. Matthew Harding, putting in God's work out there. Putting in God's work. So. And as for updates with Russell, he does have another update here. And once again, this is filed later, and he gets to come out and say, well, actually, Judge. All right, there we go. So this is a plaintiff's response to the status report. Couldn't just fucking leave it alone. He's like a woman. He's got to get the last word in. Is it Jeet behavior? Yes. Yes. Harding should add, I'm not fine. Yes. Yes, the old flim flam. Yes. But imagine doing Greer chargeback on court cost. Oh, buddy. Don't give him ideas. And yes, ultimately, guys, if you aren't aware, Russell Greer's ultimate goal from the farms is he wants his thread removed from the farms, and he wants the farms to have it where you can't ever mention his name ever again. And then he wants Josh to take him to dinner at Olive Garden, probably. Stacy says, damn, Sean. Well, he is. He's acting like a woman. He can't stop. He needs the last word here. I mean, let me know where I'm wrong. But he can't just leave it alone. Now he's got to respond. So what does he do? He simply confirms the plaintiff files the following. The defendants could have simply confirmed that, yes, plaintiff paid. Instead, they had to inform this court of one-sided information. One-sided information? What? That you didn't fully comply? That you're trying to shake them down and jerk them out of money? Yes, how dare they show? Yes. Your Honor, how dare they show that I'm acting very melanated today? It is such a crime. It's like, what the fuck? How dare you? How dare you? I just love how he phrases things here. This is one-sided information. Oh. So we're going to keep going here. So Russell says, to add clarity, the defendants didn't remind plaintiff because he never forgot. However, he did receive their email before the 18th. So I love how he's like partially conceding facts here. The plaintiff replied he was waiting for the funds, which didn't come until 2 a.m. on the 19th. You said you would have been paid on the 18th, Russell. Why did they come late? He promptly paid defendants. I mean, do we know that for sure? I don't know. I can't trust you, Russell. I don't trust you. I don't trust you on this one, Russell. Imagine that. I don't trust you at all. He didn't. Now we're getting the dark side, Phil. I did nothing wrong. I did everything right. There was nothing I could do. I'm soft locked, chat. No. And he goes, no. I touched the wrong button. No. I mean, we're in dark side Phil mode. Maybe that's the final boss in the total retard war. defending all the litigation against the farms. That's the final boss. Greer and, everybody kind of just melds together. It's like Power Rangers, but they're all retards and shitbags. And they just all come together as like a megazord of just like fucking gayness. But anyways, he's like, I did nothing wrong. And I abided by the court order as best he could. No, you didn't. You didn't comply. You didn't comply. As he had no control over when his money arrives. Well, why did you say the 18th if you didn't know when you were going to get paid? Sounds a little weird, Russell. Sounds like you're telling some tall tales. Respectfully submitted. I also wondered, did I bully Russell Greer from signing these anymore? I was just thinking about that because I kept on saying it was the My Left Foot guy. Do you think he quit because I started making fun of him? Anyways, Russell Greer. Mine. But he promptly paid to, like, this is not at all, like, citation needed. And also, why do you have empty pages, Russell? This has not been explained to me. Why do we just have a blank page? He's channeling Taylor Swift. He's like, because I got a blank space, baby, and I'll write your name. But why do we have a blank page, Russell? What is, I'm like Gunnery Sergeant Hartman. What is this? What the fuck is this? I don't know. I don't know what this is. This isn't weird to do it like that. I mean, you can put it right here at the top. That's how I do it. But yeah, put it in the middle. That's okay. Although, really, he could have, like, I just don't understand. I just don't understand the empty page. I don't understand the empty page, Russell. I don't understand the empty page at all. The netcode delayed it. Yeah. He's like, Your Honor, Mr. Harden, when we talk, he does roll mash, slag. Your Honor, he's hiding in the netcode. Anderson Cooper says, Greer is becoming the epitome of become ungovernable. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, Russell's more of a hardcore libertarian than any of us. He's literally told a federal court repeatedly to go fuck itself. And it's like, yeah, we're all talking. He's a man of action. He's like those kids in the hood with full auto Glocks. Those kids are all about that. I own an automatic weapon illegally. What about it? Whereas us, we're all like, oh my God, I don't want to get arrested by the ATF. Oh no. These kids out there, just these youngins are like, fuck it. I'll own a switchy. I ain't scared. He's helping Harden tune his troll game. Yeah. This is the practice squad. Greer was infamous on Reddit for his Kiwi Farms thread. Yeah. The court literally treated. It's not my fault. The bugged mechanics. Yes, Kiwi Farms did not popularize him. No, but I exposed him, I think, to a larger audience because Reddit's full of faggots. Yes, payroll post to my account on payday. Yeah, when I worked at FedEx, man, like you got paid like the day you got paid. And like if I got direct deposit, I actually got paid like Thursday nights instead of Fridays. And we got paid every Friday at FedEx. One of my banks actually gives me money a day or two early based on when they receive the ACH. That was the same for me too. Yes. Demon's Wrath says a jelly donut, Sean, like you don't know. I know, but it's not a jelly donut here. It's a blank page. This is worse than an orphan exhibit for Sean. Yeah, it's just you can't do it right. He's going to start putting this page intentionally left blank. That's what you're supposed to do. It's from a previous document. You can't get rid of it. Yeah, it's easy enough. You just delete. You are the last man I ever expect to sing Tay Tay. Like old Taylor Swift, yes, but the most recent shit, no. It's the placeholder for more porn pics. Yeah. Yes, the law devs, they suck. Yes. Suffer Reddit, we stole your retard. Okay. So, real quick, guys, we do need to catch up on some things here. Another for 4 months, been a member. Thank you for the support. Says Baldo did great Greer coverage with Sriracha. Yeah, those were the days, chat. Those were the days. Those were the days. And then, real quick, Unhung Hero for 20 subs. Let's fucking go, chat. Let's fucking go. Thank you for the support on Hung Hero and your generosity. Very much appreciated. EDW Raptor for $5 says, looking at the video art, didn't know Russell was a Turk. He's a separate roach. He's a separate roach. But he is. He can't get rid of him. Russell Greer will survive a nuclear blast. Trucker Rob for $5 says, Sean! Well, thank you, Rob. And January 6 2.0 says he's using PayPal. Do you think he does it because Josh Moon is banned from PayPal? He can't collect? LOL. Maybe, but Matthew Harding can collect on PayPal. So, I mean, if Russell tried that, it didn't work out because it gets paid to Harding. And that's the way it should work. You pay it to the attorney. The attorney then gives it to the client. That's the way to establish, chain of custody of payments. And then Stephen Bunt he's asking a good question here. Actually, real quick, I think going back to the Clyde thing, you're enshrined in foreverness being in the clip. Says unrelated to the Fifth Amendment, where is a grand jury defined? It's not in the Constitution, it's statutory. The Fifth Amendment gives us the right to one. No, the Fifth Amendment does not give you the right to a grand jury because people can be indicted by informations in multiple states. But what is it? Who are they? How are they? So grand juries are really kind of up to the states and even federally. But grand juries are the people who decide whether or not you've committed crimes, and they determine how things are done. And they recommend charges and they recommend what's done there. And we're like nobody else in the world does it really anymore. Like America is one of the few places left. I don't know what the other countries are that still do it, but there are countries that do. But I mean, there are like countries that nobody cares about. But yeah, it's really an American thing anymore. So, it's ultimately through the federal government. Yes, they have to do it. And in other states like Ohio, you have to have a grand jury to be indicted. You cannot face a felony charge in the state of Ohio without a grand jury. But ultimately, that part of the Fifth Amendment has never been incorporated to the states, which I think is a shame because we've seen like Kyle Rittenhouse. Kyle Rittenhouse was prosecuted by an information. Tyler Robinson, the shooter who killed Charlie Kirk, he's being prosecuted via an information. But ultimately, it's, grand juries are a right. And then that right is fleshed out through statute and case law. So there's not a specific thing there, but a grand jury is a group of people that meet in secret and they hear the presentation of evidence. And they recommend charges. And they don't require unanimous consent, but they do require a significant amount of them to consent. And we saw with the James Comey case. It looks like they recommended multiple charges and only 2 of the 3 were supported by the grand jury, which that happens. That happens. So I hope that's kind of like, how it works. It's, yeah. I mean, I kind of hope that answers your question like that, like how that works. And, the Fifth Amendment gives you the right to one in federal court, but it doesn't give you the right to one in state courts. They haven't incorporated that part, which you think they should. And if you can't get an indictment, oh, well, that's maybe the reason if the grand jury won't indict, we shouldn't prosecute. So I hope that answers your question, Stephen. If it doesn't, please let me know. Please let me know. Only Liberia uses grand juries besides the United States. Oh, Did not know that. Yes. If they have chopped somebody's hands off in Liberia, General Buck Naked. Do the prosecutors have to follow the recommendation? Well, it's not really a recommendation. It's they return the indictment and they give it to the prosecutor. So the prosecutor could dismiss charges or proceed with less charges. The prosecutor can't add on and do more. If you get an indictment, you get what you get. So grand juries are English common law, but the English don't use grand juries anymore. That went away a long time ago. So, but yes, it was a thing they did and it's a thing they don't do anymore, which that's a very common theme with England. They do a lot of things that were based and they quit doing them. Legal mindset to the first of Lawtube to sign with Mythic. I did see that. That is awesome fucking news. And, you know, congrats to Mindset for getting signed on with somebody. You know, we can't wait till he's in his VTubing experience and when he gets graduated and Mythic gets rid of him. He gets too old. No, I am seriously, that is awesome news for Mindset. Glad he was able to make that happen. You know, he was telling me all about it. He's like, they brought me in and they sat me down on this couch. And he's like, I looked around and I went, oh no! I'm just kidding. New Sean Lar worked at FedEx. I think I mentioned that. I mentioned that before a lot. Well, everything froze there. But yeah, I worked at FedEx through law school. Yeah, it was a fun time. A lot skinnier back then. But yeah. As much as it sucked as a job, they were pretty cool about doing right by me. Like I'd tell them like I need time off for finals and stuff. They were always cool about it. So I had really nice managers. He mentions it once a week. Oh, I didn't know because I've been watching him lately. Been a little busy. Mythic Talent Agency, yes. What is Mythic? I didn't say Mythic. I said Mythic. But yes, Mythic is a talent group. Were you playing tic-tac-toe with yourself during court yesterday or drawing stick figures? No, I was doing work. Thank you very much. Say, isn't that Asmongold's company? I think so. I think so. Let's see here. I'm not sure what you guys are getting here, but yep, OTK is Asmongold. Okay, I don't know who's who. I don't know any. I'm never gonna have any of that, so I don't care. I don't need to know that stuff. Yes, Kirsha is under the Mythic umbrella. I know. Kirsha reached out a hand to Mindset, not to me, not to the fat man. Chat. It's like that meme where the hand's drowning in the ocean, and Kirsha just goes, "High five." Oh, but that's okay. That's okay, chat. That's okay. So let's get back to this. Let's get back to what Russell Greer did. So after he files this on the 20th, Russell again 2 days later files another thing where he's like, Russell Greer files another notice of supplemental authority. So what did Russell Greer do? He says he files the following. Shortly after he submitted his response to the status report, a Kiwi Farms user sent him an extremely abusive and vulgar message. This individual has been using variations of Satan's a blank, 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 and other monikers that has been sending plaintiff incredibly distressing emails. Incredibly distressing. I mean, if it's distressing, isn't that enough? I mean, it's like the objection. I strenuously object. Oh, well, that makes sense. Like, if they're distressing, doesn't that kind of speak for itself? For 6 months now, and they're clearly a Kiwi Farms user because they reference the court filings. They're referencing the supposedly late payment. Well, it was late. I love how Russell is using the court to argue with the fucking trolls. He's like, which once again, plaintiff home, now you know, plaintiff home. He would have been paid on the 18th. When the payment came in the early morning hour on the 19th. It doesn't matter if the way Russell did it, it still would have taken an extra day. So Hardin would have been paid a day late regardless. And I think that's something Russell needs to, like, you were using something that was going to take another day anyway to use the Zoom. So you were going to be late no matter what you did. But the payment came in the early hours of the 19th. This notice is relevant because it shows the evil mindset of judgment mood users. It shows why plaintiff sincerely and honestly, not just, but also you got to use one or the other if you're going to do that, sincerely or honestly. I think you want to say sincerely felt he was being justified and being careful with the initial disclosures and why the paid sanction makes no sense. This doesn't really explain. Regardless, it is paid. The supplemental notice also shows the type of people criticizing his works, since the defendant is insisting on fair use as a defense. Signed, Russell Greer. Mine left. Mine. Like, what the fuck? Yes, Your Honor, I'm chewing on this. It is me who's chewing on this. The Kiwi Orchards, yes. Oh. Compares filings for 2 days ago. It's painfully obviously weren't written by the same person. Assuming it's written by a person at all. Well, yeah, that's something we're going to get to with his last thing out there. Looks like some, learning machines are getting involved for Russell. Yeah. Trying to care. Yes. All right. Yes. 19th. Yeah. Have you ever played tic-tac-toe for $50,000? No. But yes, he's all upset now. And oh, why did this not load? I grabbed it before. All right. So what is Russell going to do here? Well, we're going to keep going. And notice this one, the certificate's up top. And you're like, oh, I don't understand. Exhibit A. Satan's asshole. Notice that's not and that's the problem here when you look at this. AS, because if he's doing it right, it's ASS. He doesn't use the right amount of things here, Russell. Come on. So ASS asshole. Okay, well, you don't do this right. You don't have enough stars, Russell. You're too short. This could be Satan's asses. But it doesn't work. So let's keep going, though, because it's Satan's asshole. You! I love that. I love this. You! Where? Late! You... Notice he doesn't even open it up, so we don't know what it says, but I'm sure we could go, you shit-eating fat... I'm sorry, probably... It should have been faggot, but you shit-eating fat. Because Russell's not fat. You can call him a faggot, though. But where's the rest of the email, Wussel? Wussel! I wanted to laugh at this guy and what he said to you, but you won't show us. Why not? Why not? He's too poor for extra asterisks. Yes. He's limited! Oh, what did I say there? Sorry. Yes, asterisk. Yes, this lawsuit was intentionally left blank. China is asshole. That is true. China is always asshole. China is always asshole.
Donald Trump don't trust China. China is asshole.
Very big asshole. You know, you whole asshole. Yes. You! The ellipses aren't his forte either. Fat have been the noun. Kat says, who sent that email? We don't know. So. Oh. So Rustart is still a better lawyer than Nick. Well, that's a bit of a... I think we have to agree to disagree there, but they both suck. They suck! Oh, Bono's got it correct here. You were late! You shit-eating father of our cockroach children. Please be more attentive. I love you. Ew. Oh. Oh, that's funny. That is funny. So, yeah, there we go. There we go, chat. There we go. I don't know. I don't know if this is true or not. I mean, we got to work with it. We got to work with what he sent us. From here, Matthew Hardin responded with his own filings. And things kind of sat quiet for a while. It was all quiet on the Tardo front. Think about this. We went a whole month with nothing. Chat. You know, and it's like when you're like Muldoon in Jurassic Park. You're like, it's too quiet. Fucking get your SPAS 12 ready. You're like, run. A whole month of nothing. And from here, though, we go on to where we are now this week. So they file a notice of supplemental authority regarding the pending motion to dismiss, and this is correct. A notice of supplemental authority is, Your Honor, there's authority that is out there. There are updates to what we have submitted previously, and you're doing this as a notice. So they point out, April 14th, the defendants filed a motion to dismiss. Approximately 4 months later, on August 15th, the petition for a writ of certiorari was filed with the United States Supreme Court in Cox Communications versus Sony Entertainment et al. That petition was granted on June 30th, 2025. And if you guys don't know, and this is a great place to go if you ever want basic information, it's called SCOTUS blog. Even though they're a bunch of journalists and you can't hate them enough, they do enough here that gives you basic information, and they kind of highlight stuff up for you. And if you don't know how to dig around on the Supreme Court, it's not bad. So you guys can go through here. They show you, the application, how this all worked out, what people were seeking, what things were done. They color code stuff here. And this is just the inclusion of everything that's being done. And you guys can see all the stuff that gets filed. And then if you go down here a little ways, brief of amici curiae, friend of the court, Joshua Moon et al. Filed. So what are these amici curiae? These are friends of the court. These are people who are filing briefs of their own and arguments of their own to explain to the Supreme Court, you should support one side or another. You're a friend of the court, providing the court more information, more things to look at. You're telling the court what we should do here, So. I have no lips and I must burg, yes. Oh. Say, its filing resources are great though, and that's the thing here. This is all indexed and a way for you guys to find stuff. That's the one thing I will tell you. If you're never sure where to go, SCOTUS blog is very good for that. So this case is we're getting ready. And the United States is seeking lien to participate in the oral arguments and for divided argument. Notice the U.S. government has tapped in and filed a motion with the Supreme Court saying, like, we want to join this and we want the right to argue. Nobody else really gets that up. Like, anybody could file this, but you know what happens? Nobody else gets that right. The U.S. gets to do this all the time. But look at all the different people who have filed things here. Look at all of this. And this isn't even a lot, but this is just, it's a good chunk. It's a good chunk of things. But it's totally normal to have these. And so anyways, what they tell you, the opinion below is from the Fourth Circuit, and you can click through and it will show you the Fourth Circuit case, where this came from. And ultimately, going back to SCOTUS blog, they kind of boil it down. There are two issues. And it says whether the Fourth Circuit erred in holding a service provider can be held liable for materially contributing to copyright infringement merely because it knew people were using certain accounts to infringe and did not terminate access. And they say without proof that service provider affirmatively fostered infringement or otherwise intended to promote it. And they said, and whether the Fourth Circuit erred in holding that mere knowledge of another's direct infringement suffices to find willfulness under the Copyright Act. So this is a contributory copyright case, a contributory infringement case. It's the same thing the Farms is being accused of by Russell Greer. So this is pretty important. This is a pretty big fucking deal. I mean, this is a massive thing here for internet service, like internet providers, anybody in general. This is a massive, massive, massive issue. So, Dark Lotus says, how do the filers, if you're filing Amicus, ensure that they aren't redundant? Are they required to read everything before they move? No, they're not required to read the Amicus or Amicus briefs or whatever we should call them, the Amicus. You're not required to read those as the Supreme Court. You can if you want to, but the court's not obligated to read it. They're not binding. They're not the parties' arguments. And the parties are going to make all the arguments they think are relevant. And really, when it comes down to it, you make your arguments for your client in your position all the way through. You don't take the risk that other people will make the argument for you. So a lot of them are going to be redundant as shit. Yeah. Dijon Sour. Yep. Tap it in. Tap it in. Totally tapping in here. All right. So there was another. You guys are talking about the 30-06 stuff. We'll get to that in a minute when we're done. Another says the defense plays videos of Russell Greer dancing the defense rest. Yeah. Yeah, that is something to watch. That's something to watch. But Stephen Budd for another $5 says, thank you to clarify. He says, I have been called for jury duty. Well, congratulations. I hope you enjoy your time on it. But never for grand jury duty. Who are they and how are they chosen? That's my concern. The grand jury is chosen the same way your jury pools are chosen for like petit juries. So, you know, the way you were chosen is the same way. They go off of either driver's license information, voter rolls, and they send out letters saying you're part of the grand jury report. And you show up and, yeah, you sit in the courtroom and they voir dire a grand jury and they impanel it and they get told, yeah, here you go. You're going to start hearing cases. That's how a grand jury works. You get a notice just like anybody. It's like any other jury duty notice. But you get a notice. It's for grand jury duty. So that's all it is. It's literally the same thing. You all come in, you sit in a room, and you know, when you're impaneling a jury for a session, a grand jury for a session, remember, grand juries don't just meet once. They meet for multiple cases over multiple times in court. Now, how does that typically work? So, for example, one of the counties I practiced in, it was very rural. The grand jury met once a month. So one day a month for the next 6 months, you have jury duty. And it's going to be like the third Tuesday every month. And, you know, usually you start at 9 and you'll be done a lot of times by noon, sometimes into the afternoon. Busier counties and busier locations, you might, you know, you're still only going to meet a handful of times because there'll be multiple grand juries and panel. Because, for example, in Cleveland, Ohio, like Cuyahoga County, The grand jury is every day indicting shit and hearing cases. But obviously you aren't told, hey, for the next 6 months, you have no job. No, they have multiple grand juries going at once because you can't expect people to be in there every day. That'd be insane. So, like, you show up every Monday, the first Monday, you show up every first Tuesday, and you have different groups of people. You don't just have one grand jury the whole way through because nobody could live like that. No one could live like that. But you're just picked the same way. You are picked the same way jury duty is done. Like if you're being summoned to show up to court, it's the same thing. Now, and in some states, it may say grand jury, it may just say jury duty notice, but generally, they let you know it's grand jury notice versus regular jury notice. And then MLS David says, I vote for Sean for the grand jury. Yeah. Well, you know, I'd be a horrible grand juror because I'd be very critical of the police. I'd be like, I'd be voting no bill most of the time. So, but it wouldn't matter because you don't need, like for an Ohio example, your grand jury is 9 people. You only need 7 to secure an indictment. And says, Stephen Blunt says, okay, another thing for $5 real quick. Is it off the letter? I mean, it should say in your notice. I think it makes sense to just say, hey, you've got jury duty. Because for grand jury duty, you don't like call in the night before to make sure you have to come in. You're just told, show up at this date. We're doing the grand jury. So it's a little different of a thing on how you need to be there. They actually say grand jury duty. Yeah, I mean, like, you know, I'm pretty, like I said, I don't know anybody who's gotten grand jury duty here in Ohio, but I'm pretty sure it does. I'm pretty sure it does distinguish that. And they say, if so, how does jury nullification fit in the framework? Well, remember, your grand juries don't require unanimous consent. You don't unanimous agreement that you're going to indict this person. So you can nullify, but you have the right. The way grand juries work, prosecutor comes in and says, hey, guys, I'm going to tell you about the case of the state of Ohio versus Stephen Bunt. And the basic information here is that on or about the first date of December 2024, Stephen Bunt did knowingly and purposefully, or should have had reason to know, take the property of Susie Smith, to wit, her Ferrari 458, and did not have permission to do so or right to do so. So you're accused of stealing a car. You know, the first witness we're going to have come in is Susie Smith. And Susie would come in and testify. And then we'd bring in Officer Bob. Officer Bob would come in and testify how he caught you driving the car. And Susie told you you weren't allowed to drive it and all that. And then the prosecutor would say, okay, so you guys have heard everything. Do you have any questions? And this is where the grand jury can ask questions of the witnesses. They can ask questions of the prosecutor saying, do we have access to other evidence? We would like evidence. Can we get a subpoena for some evidence? The grand jury can ask to file and issue subpoenas on things. Now, granted, most cases aren't going to be that type of an issue. But they'll say, no, we're all set. And the prosecutor will say, cool. In the meantime, the court reporter's been sitting in a corner typing away, or there's been a recording going. And the prosecutor says, all right, well, you guys are going to deliberate. I'm stopping the recording, or the court reporter is going to stop. We'll see you guys in a couple minutes. Knock on the door when you need us. And tell us when you have a verdict. Like, tell us when you have a decision. And the prosecutor, you get up and you walk out of the room, you close the door, and you just sit and wait. And sometimes it takes like a minute or two, and they're like, yeah, we're going to indict. I mean, sometimes it's pretty obvious. But sometimes it takes a little while. And yes, while you're in there, you have the right to sit there and pull a 12 Angry Men and explain to people why you don't think it should be a thing. You can say, I think this is bullshit. I don't think these laws should exist. I don't want to indict people. You're allowed to do that on a grand jury. You're allowed to do that. You can set that. But if, for example, in Ohio, if you don't get 3 people to agree with you, you won't get indicted. But what that means is, at the end of the day, the prosecutor can just come back in the next grand jury and then try to indict you again. And try to indict you again. And try to indict you again. You know, there's no stopping him. There's no stopping him. But that's a very good question. I hope that answers your questions. Mm-hmm. Who is saying here? Somebody's saying that their grand jury in New Jersey pays $2 a day. Jeez. You had to save a stack of them before cashing. Yeah, I got called up for grand jury. It was every day for every weekday for a month. It really sucked because of that. Yeah, it all depends where you live. Some places, they try to break it up. Some places you do it in a batch. But every day for a month, that's awful. That is very, very awful. That's very awful. Could the grand jurors ask questions? Yes, you have the right to question the witnesses. This isn't like when we watch, like, the Cardi B case or these different things that are out there when the judges sometimes let the juries ask questions. No, grand juries have the right to they're an investigatory body at the end of the day. They're allowed to inquire. They're allowed to ask questions. They're allowed to ask the prosecutor, we need to do more. We would like more information. So, a grand jury indictment means the indictment is super valid, right? I mean, it means they passed a basic threshold of probable cause. And remember, a grand jury is a one-sided affair. So the government gets to come in there and say how big a piece of shit you are. Being indicted means nothing to me. Like I said, if you come into my office and you're like, Sean, oh no, I've been indicted. Okay, yes, that is a panic thing. But at the end of the day, it's just words on paper. It doesn't mean shit till we have to agree with it. Do I know about the bus stabbings? No, I don't know anything about them. Sorry. Let's see here. I got a federal notice, but they didn't like me. I mean, that's not uncommon. That's not uncommon. No wonder Sean doesn't like ham sandwiches. Joe says grand juries basically approve probable cause. Yes, they have to. Because you can't prove it beyond a reasonable doubt there. Remember, the grand jury just establishes to a probable cause standard, we think this happened. That's all the grand jury is saying. We believe you committed this crime, not we know you committed this crime. And Steven says again, $5. Thank you, Steven. Thank you and well done. Would like more talk on, the grand jury seems secret. I don't like that, but otherwise seems solid. Well, it should be secret because if you're being investigated for committing a crime, but it turns out the grand jury's like, nah, we don't think this happened. Do you really want the whole world knowing what happened? Because, I think there should be some privacy there. There's also the idea that, for example, sometimes they're going after really, really bad people. When I was an assistant prosecutor at my first gig, I got to, it was a very small office. So I got to be involved in the whole idea of we had secret indictments go out because the one guy was shooting had shot a fucking house with people in it. And there was a serious concern he was going to be very violent when the police found him. And they rolled up with, they got the TAC team together and they rolled heavy on that guy. And they served him with the warrant when they arrested him. I mean, there are times where that's done in secret for that reason, but there's also, for example, people who get accused of, molesting children. Should the public have to sit there and listen to a child or somebody have to recount, or a detective recounting how somebody is accused of molesting a child and, all that information getting put out there if it's not necessary? There's a lot of reasons why the grand jury is done in secret. And I don't necessarily have a problem with that. I have a bigger problem with the preliminary hearings and how that ends up resulting in basically it's a needless hearing that doesn't do anything. And I think most states would be better off with having indictments being the only way you can be charged with a felony. I think the idea of information's being filed is bullshit. But that's just me. Let's see. If you have to go in for a jury summons, I'm going to cut my hands on my face and talk like Bane. That's a great way to get kicked out. Yeah, was he black? No, he was white. I was in a very rural county of 40. I was in a county where Jim Jordan is from. Champaign County, Ohio. Like, it was a long fucking time ago. No, it's a white place. It's all white people. It's 45,000 people there. Europe has little ex parte court cases, which are way worse. Yeah, that's awful. Trey says, I did the grand jury once every third Wednesday a month. Yeah, that's a very common thing. Like I said, it's a way that makes sense. Tim says no bill should be secret. I mean, there are people where it's like, we're coming for you, and then, you know, they're going to want to fight. So you got grand jury the week COVID hit. Oh, that sucks. That never happened then. So, yes, Jim Jordan, the representative for Google. Was I one of his wrestlers? No. So, all right. Now, moving back into this thing here from the Farms and Matthew Harden. What are they talking about? So, running back, that was a big derail. Getting back to notice, there is a Supreme Court case being filed. And they say the second of two questions is whether liability can be imposed for contributory copyright infringement when there is a mere finding the defendant knew its subscriber's conduct was illegal, as opposed to a finding the defendant knew its own conduct was illegal. And it says on September 22nd, the United States filed for motion to leave to participate. And as the United States explained, Cox concerns the circumstances under which an ISP may be held contributorily liable for acts of copyright committed through use of its subscribers' accounts. And they talk about other briefing raises issues. For example, the Electronic Freedom Foundation, those fucking cucks, issued a brief in which it argued there's no statutory framework for imposing statutory damages in liability cases under either the patent or copyright statutes. And that's correct. And they say under Greer's amended complaint, just as his original complaint alleges, that defendants Joshua Moon and Lawcow LLC, the actual owner of Kiwi Farms, are being sued for the acts of the subscribers or users rather than their own actions. And they cite Russell's own amended complaint. I wish I could show you guys this little Papillon. It's a 9-month-old toy Papillon. And it for some reason, it doesn't like the cats. And it just like, it's growling and wants to play with them. And I'm sure you heard it just barking. It's so cute. It's so funny watching it go after him. It's so funny. So funny. Such a good little doggo. Clyde is not on the warpath. That's not Clyde. That is not Clyde. That is Bon Bon the Papillon. I know a girl who had a Papillon. I'm trying to grab her, but I don't know if she's going to do it. Hold on. Let me try again, chat. Papillons are cute. It's a black and white Papillon. Come here. Bon Bon. Come here. Bon Bon. Hey. Hey, come here. Yeah, she's now best friends with Clyde. So she's black and white. She's got the nice like white line in the middle of her face. She's got all the good symmetry. Jim says Bon Bon rolls eyes. Hey, it's not. Hey, I didn't name it, but it's pretty appropriate. It's apropos given that it's the dog is, its name is French. Calling it Bon Bon makes sense. So, so moving on from here, though, they point out that they allege a user named Mosif Jartelli committed one act to which the defendants allegedly contributed. And the other allegations are attributed to a user named Rustard. Further, Greer seeks exclusive statutory damages in his operative complaint. And they say if the Supreme Court determines, as argued, that contributory liability does not exist, such a ruling would likely be fatal to Russell Greer's case. It would be. It would 100% be fatal. How small is Bon Bon? Bon Bon's like 9 pounds. She's a little dainty dog right now. How much? 5? Okay, 5 pounds. She is a little dainty dog. How small is she? She's little. She's so little. She's like 1/4 of Clyde's weight. So I think, did you put a picture up on Locals? Okay, well, we'll put a picture up on Locals, guys. We'll get a picture. But they point out that, yes, if the U.S. Supreme Court determines the statutory damages are unavailable versus, for a contributory versus a direct infringement, that would necessarily mean Greer is not entitled not to only the form of relief he seeks is not entitled to any form of relief, which would be a 12b6 motion. He presents a claim upon which relief cannot be granted. So this is a 12b6 point. We're pointing out that Russell Greer seeks relief for something upon which we can't grant it. We can't grant it. Was this always a dog channel? Yes. Yes, 100%. Harded choosing Russ Hard as his exemplar. Well, these are the only two. These are the only two Russell Greer himself has pointed out is Russ Hard and Mosif Jartelli. Those are the two Russell Greer highlights. He focuses in on those two himself. Yes, we were always a dog channel. We're always a dog channel. But that's what happens here. That's what happens here. But yes, that kills Russell's case. And they say they respectfully submit this court should await the decision of the Supreme Court in Cox before adjudicating the pending motion to dismiss, as it is likely the Supreme Court will offer relevant guidance for this court's consideration. Now, that's interesting because if you guys don't understand what that means, that means not until the next term is going to be heard for this. And I don't believe it's even been scheduled yet. I don't believe it's been scheduled. There's so much here. When you go back to what the Supreme Court's looking at here, a joint appendix for things and filings shall be prepared on or before October 29th. The parties will provide copies of their opening briefs on the merits that include citations of pages of the joint appendix, meaning all the different things they're going to cite to, on or before November 10th. We're not going to hear this till next year, chat. This is not getting heard until next year. So, this is, I love the plan of we're just going to put this on hold for how long? Forever. Just like in Hamilton, forever and ever. But they're asking for it. It's going to be, they want to stay on this. And I think that makes sense because if they turn out to get rid of this, why do this and then go through all of the work and the time and the effort to change that? Yes, forever, ever. Yes, 100%. Wussel needs to scam another $125. Yeah. So I think it makes sense to do this. I think it makes 100% sense. I think it's correct. This is the filing here. This is the leave for the United States to show up as as an amicus and also an amicus and get their right to talk. So, and it's in the Supreme Court of the U.S. Cox versus Sony, and they want to participate in the oral arguments, and they want divided time, and they have unique rights to do that. And I forgot to bring this up earlier, but the Supreme Court has its own. Guys, remember I told you every court has its own rules. Every court has its own rules, and the rules of the Supreme Court are no different. They have their own rules that they can do, and they have every right to file. Like they have every right to impose rules, and those rules cover everything to how you do stuff, to how things are filed, everything that happens there, everything that happens. The Supreme Court has that unique, everything has to be like with stitch binding. You've got to do it a certain way when you submit documents. It's very, very, very special there. But anyways, this is the Supreme Court's rules. I mean, the rules for the Supreme Court, they have their own sets of rules, and they cover everything. You know, the court, how it works, admission to the bar, writs of the jurisdiction on writs. How do you file motions and applications? How do you do briefs? Practices and procedures. If you have models and diagrams, computating time, like how do you count days? How do we count days in this court? If you are doing, if there's death, how do we cover that? Custody of prisoners and habeas proceedings. If you want to be an amicus, how do you do that? If you're proceeding in forma pauperis, if you're a veteran or a seaman or a military case, there's special rules for you to follow. How do you opinions of the court, interest and damages, cost, if you want a rehearing, they never grant rehearings. Processes and mandates, dismissing cases. How do you dismiss? How do you reference state courts and state laws, the effective dates of the rules? This is all stuff they do. You know, they talk about the Supreme Court's libraries, how do you do this? Nobody's allowed to remove books from the law library except for a justice or a member of the justice's staff. That is kind of neat, though. They don't let you do that. So, and from here, they talk about oral arguments and the things that the, where is it at here? I was trying to grab it. They Rule 28.4 and Rule 28.7. Well, let's look at what those are. So they're saying here that one attorney, and they point out here are the rules, that only, oh, you guys got to zoom in so you can see this. Read us all of it. We're not doing that. No, court rules make you want to jump off a cliff. So only one attorney will be heard for each side, except, I hate it when it does this. I did the thing. Only one attorney will be heard for each side, except by leave of the court on motion filed in time to be considered. Any request for divided argument shall be presented by motion under Rule 21. It shall set out specifically and concisely why more than one attorney should be allowed. Divided argument is not favored, and that's correct. You generally aren't allowed. And they point out here by leave of the court and subject to paragraph 4, counsel for an amicus curiae whose brief has been provided may argue orally on the side of the party with consent of that party. In the absence of consent, counsel for the amicus may seek leave to argue by motion. Such a motion will be granted only in the most extraordinary circumstances, or if you're the United States government, you pretty much get the right to do that. It's an unspoken rule that if the government asks for it, they get it. They're generally not denied. So that is where we are here. I'm not reading all of it. No, fuck that. So they want to do it this way. They say, accordingly, if the government goes that this motion is granted, the argument will be divided as follows. And this means they went ahead and talked to Cox, and Cox is probably okay with this breakdown too. They want 20 minutes for petitioners, 10 minutes for the United States, and 30 minutes for the respondents. So it's going to be an hour long, and that's normal. And this is how they're trying to work it out. So Afton for it, giving 5 subs. Good to see you, Afton. Hope you're doing well. It's a big woo moment. Thank you for your support, your generosity. It's greatly appreciated. So we are all set here with this, and that's going to show us what we do. And then we move on to there, and this is being cited. This is the brief. This is the amicus brief of the Electronic Frontier Foundation, the American Library Association, the Association of Research Libraries, and it's regarding the create and support of petitioners and reversals. So they want to reverse the Fourth Circuit decision, and yeah, these libraries all have an interest in it, and so does the EFF. So they go through this, and if you guys have never seen it, it's just like a regular Supreme Court brief. You've got your table of contents. You know, in your table of contents, you cite the table of contents. You have a cited table of authorities, your statement of identity and interest in this case, your introduction, summary of your arguments, and then your arguments. And if you guys, I don't think we've gone through these before, but your table of cited authorities, the cases that you're citing, You're going to cite things out of the federal circuit. Remember, that's a separate federal court of appeals. There's various United States Supreme Court cases, a Fourth Circuit case, an SDNY case, a Seventh Circuit case, more Supreme Court cases. And you just cite everything here that you're relying on for your table of authorities. And then the District of Maryland, like you cite everything, state court cases, whatever it is. And then over here, the pages, you'll find it. You'll cite this way. Once you get to this point, this is a style issue. But when you do this, if you have too many pages where you'll find something, you'll see what's written. It's called PASIM. PASSI. Oh, damn it. You'll see this written here, and you'll see the word PASIM. PASIM. And you'll see that, and sometimes it's placed like right here instead. And that means throughout. It's cited a million times is basically what you're trying to argue. Yeah, it's in passing. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. It's throughout. You're going to see it in a million pages. And they have a lot of pages here, so they don't necessarily need that. But if you have this, like in a case, if I was writing an appeal and I had it this many times, I would say PASIM. You go through all this, and then ultimately you also cite other authorities. You cite constitutional provisions. You cite statutes. If there's rules and like Code of Federal Regulation, you'll cite that. But, here's different parts of the Copyright Act. There's other parts of the United States Code. There's also legislative materials from, when this is being passed. Other authorities, different things like FCC recommendations, other things that are out there. If there are, documents from companies, but FCC filings. This one here is something from CNET. Looks like it's a story. All this stuff here. Congressional Research Service. Something from Xfinity. It's their repeat infringer policy for things. And then this is another report from the FCC. You do all of this throughout there. Okay, now we're trying to be cheeky here. Yes, is it passing? This isn't chess. No, en passant allowed. Well, yes. Yes, you can't do that. But look at all the stuff you're going to file here. So there's other things that are filed. The Institute for Broadband and Society, the Federal Communications Commission again. All kinds of different stuff that's out there. You're going to cite to, and look at, this is a well-researched thing here. The Pew Research Center, Apple Podcasts for certain things, Vox articles, just different stuff that's out there. You'll cite everything you can that you think may be helpful to you. And then, the Comcast DMCA policy, that's going to be, all this stuff is helpful. Did the feds reply to Church's recent filing? No, they're in accordance with it. They're supporting Cox, so they're all on the same side. That's right, chat. The farms and the government are arm in arm. They are linking arms together. So one day, Sean's blog will make it as an other authority, maybe. Oh. Job well done says, en passant, I have always considered a house rule because I never let it happen. That's funny, yes. The court has said nothing yet. That's correct as well. This has not been ruled on. But that is the ultimately, and then this goes on for, 45 pages here, and, you get to the end. And yes, ultimately, they say to avoid liability, if this were to be enforced, ISPs like Cox will be forced to terminate subscribers en masse upon the slightest accusation of infringement. Terminated subscribers could include innocent parties who didn't even know they share accounts with repeat infringers. They would face near insurmountable difficulties with fundamental parts of life as a result, from finding and maintaining work to getting education or obtaining healthcare. Yeah, think about it. Like if you're at home and your kid's doing this, you could lose your job because your work from home job got terminated because you lost your internet. The law does not compel that drastic of a result. The material contribution theory finds no support in any statute nor in any precedent. And they're saying that they should reject this theory and reverse the decision below. So yeah, they want this overturned. And then from here, Russell Greer gets one more stab as we're dealing with this. And some of you might ask, why is it blocked out? Because Russell cries to YouTube, and the Indians running YouTube think apparently giving his address is inexcusable. Now, what do we have here? This is Russell's response. And it's interesting how it's just titled that. So what do we have here? It says, Greer respectfully submits his response to the defendant's notice of supplemental authority. And wow, the defendants misstate the basis of the case. You're like, wow, this is already being written like it's someone else. Almost like a learning machine. Or AI was involved. And it says the defendants contend plaintiffs use only for the infringing acts of the farms users. That is inaccurate. The plaintiff's claim is for contributory copyright infringement, which attaches where a defendant knows of the direct infringement and causes materially or contributes to that infringement. He's only citing Greer versus Moon. And that's the case that went to the 10th Circuit. Reversing dismissal and holding plaintiffs sufficiently pled material copyright contribution. Notice this is actually being honest, that he sufficiently pled to beat dismissal. Not that he has a case, as Russell kept saying before. So yes, I think AI was involved because this is actually a correct statement of law. The 10th Circuit expressly held that the plaintiff plausibly alleged that Josh's conduct and that of the farms went beyond passively permitting infringement. Instead, it constituted material contribution and encouragement of users' infringing acts. That controlling decision already rejected defendants' framing that Moon's role was akin to a neutral intermediary. Well, that doesn't say that Knoll's claim is invalid, and I think Russell thinks that all he has to do is come in there and say, well, the 10th Circuit says I win. I really think that's what Russell does. I think he thinks that. I think he thinks he gets to come into court and go, look, the 10th Circuit says I win, and the court's going to go, you win. It's not how that works. It says he plausibly alleged. Okay, so he survives a motion to dismiss. That doesn't mean you win. You just meet the bare bones standard of getting through the door. They say that controlling decision already rejected defendants' framing. The role was akin to a neutral intermediary. Importantly, the Supreme Court denied certiorari in Greer versus Moon, leaving the 10th Circuit's decision binding and final. Yeah, for right now, yes, this is binding authority that Russell's case can't be dismissed on the way he initially pled it. That's all that means, though. That's the only binding part of this. Russell met the basic elements of surviving a motion to dismiss. Once again, Russell thinks there's so much more here. So has he ever won any of his cases? No, but technically, I mean, he won at the Court of Appeals, that's not a small feat. So what do they talk about here? So they say Cox's concerns neutral IFPs, not active operators who encourage infringement. And this is very well written, and that's the thing here. This is very clean. There's no crying about, oh, the defendant is a son, is a brother. He's just trying so hard. You don't hear any of that. That's how you know this was not written by Russell. So the grand assertion involves whether ISPs can be held liable for subscriber infringement. Unlike Cox, Mr. Moon is not a neutral ISP. How do you know? He is the owner and operator of Kiwi Farms, who affirmatively refused DMCA takedown requests, mocked them, and republished plaintiffs' notices on a dedicated site section called Take That Off the Goddamn Internet, where he sometimes holds polls on whether to comply or with other takedown requests. He also published FAQs claiming that non-famous works are fair use, effectively instructing infringement. Citation needed. Moon also emailed and taunted Greer with the words, "Try me." Okay, so what? These actions were specifically identified in the 10th Circuit as material contribution. Thus, regardless how the Supreme Court resolves the liability in Cox, that decision cannot erase established precedent, holding that the state a viable infringement claim. Yeah, that's it, Russell. What they can do is say you have no case. You're not entitled to statutory damages. They can say any claims of contributory copyright infringement are bullshit, Russell. They can wipe your entire theory out right meow. This idea the Supreme Court can't do that is incorrect. Now, he is correct in the sense that until the Supreme Court says something, you can't say this is a bullshit case and dismiss because he hasn't sufficiently pled things. Russell can get dismissed because he's sanctioned for his misconduct and a bunch of other things, and maybe we get to summary judgment and toss it. But yes, Russell's correct. The idea that he has sufficiently pled something is not even something I think the Supreme Court would overturn. They would just say these are meritless. You're not entitled to statutory damages, meaning, okay, well, you pled it, but, state of claim, prominence relief can't be granted. Would the court punish him, AI? No, because he's not citing bullshit. Like the attorneys who get in trouble for the AI stuff are using it where they have false citations, bullshits in the case, and lies and incorrect statements. Just using this to organize it, no, he's not going to get in trouble for that. So, yeah, it's not a problem until he starts hallucinating cases or facts. So, yeah, this is like 20% correct. A little bit here, Russell, but most of this is wrong. And they say defendant's notice does not cite any controlling precedent. They rely on a pending appeal, not binding authority. Well, neither are you. You have no binding authority. They merely point to the Supreme Court's grant of certiorari and attach amici filings. A cert grant is not authority, and amici briefs are not law. Correct. The only binding appellate decision here is Greer versus Moon, where the 10th Circuit held that he sufficiently alleged contributory infringement. Yeah, so you survived the motion to dismiss, Russell. You're back. That's all you've gotten. The 10th Circuit said you're allowed to put your foot in the door and step through it. You have not been entitled to anything else. The Supreme Court declined that case, leaving it intact. Yeah. And he says, even if Cox ultimately narrows liability for neutral ISPs, it cannot disturb liability for active site operators who induce and cultivate infringement. Now this is where Russell's stepping into the completely wrong territory. Completely wrong territory. That's not correct at all, Russell. You could argue that this is distinguishable, but it's going to be on you to explain why it shouldn't apply. It's going to be on you to explain why the holding won't apply to you. So it says that Mr. Moon's a neutral service provider who's an operator who mocks enforcement, republishes material, and sustains his site through donations tied to traffic generated by content. His conduct places this case within Greer versus Moon and MGM v. Grokster, not within the ISP context of Cox. Well, once again, this whole thing about Greer versus Moon is not relevant here, Russell. Yes, you've been in the case. You're surviving like this. That's it. That's all you're entitled to right now. This is not at all like Grokster. I don't see how you make that argument, but I'm waiting to see how you plug that into the AI. You guys are talking about, yes, there's a federal judge. Yeah, we talked about that one night where there was a judge in Mississippi. It looks like he used AI to do a case because it was completely fucked up, a federal court case. But I do the AI stuff once in a while just because there's millions of cases to cover with that, and it just takes forever. But yeah, Steve Lato covers them at least once a week. Yeah, Lato's Law is a good channel. I like him a lot. And they say the EFS policy concerns are misplaced. Yeah, Russell, your policy concerns are misplaced. I should know. I'm a brothel expert. I love how he does this. The defendants attach amici filings warning that contributory liability could chill innovation or cut off lawful internet access. Those concerns are in a posit. There's no fuck. And as somebody said on the farms, that's a $10 word. That's for Russell Greer. That's a $20 word. When did you use that ever before? Where did you ever use that before, Russell? Never. It says Congress already carved out IP. Section 230 of the CDA expressly excludes IP from immunity. Congress designed the DMCA safe harbors to protect neutral intermediaries who adopt and enforce repeat infringer policies. That framework presupposes the availability of contributory liability when intermediaries cross the line. No, it doesn't. But once again, this is actually being well written, makes it give the air of plot, gives it the air of credibility. Kiwi Farms is not a neutral conduit, according to whom? The EFF warns about libraries which retain and keep information available for people to read. The Farms is much like a library. It's a curation of documents and information for people to access. It's a preservation. It's very much like a library. Schools, I mean, no. And a utility, no. Kiwi Farms is none of these, according to you. That's a conclusory statement. It is a curated forum. Yes. A library is a curated collection with a reputation for fostering infringement and harassment. Okay, well, no. But it is a curation. It's a cataloging. Holding Mr. Moon accountable does not risk cutting off innocent households from internet access. It targets an operator whose own conduct materially contributes to infringement. It's also a curation of autism, yes. It's also a library where you can scream the N-word as loud as you want, yes. Yes, it's true. And they say eliminating contributory liability would create a piracy free-for-all. Once again, this is Russell making policy arguments. I don't think Russell Greer understands what the word policy means. So yes, once again, this is 100% AI generated. Also, justify your alignments, you fucking tard. The Supreme Court unanimously recognizes a Grokster, warning that inducement-based business models must remain actionable or infringement would become unstoppable. What inducement was there in the business model? He republishes DMCA notices in a forum section celebrating infringement, tells users that non-famous works are fair use. Where does he exactly say that, Russell? And profits through donations tied to the availability of infringing content. Plaintiff has documented at least 300 downloads of one copyrighted work on Moon's site. No, that's through the Google Drive, so I don't know how you know you can do that. Direct diversion of value from plaintiff's market. You need to steal my money. That's my money for hookers. I go to Olive Garden, says Russell. Striking down contributory liability would immunize this kind of deliberate inducement. And fucking don't leave orphans. The remedies are not barred. And they say defendants arguing that Russell only seeks statutory damage. He's like, not you. Plaintiff's first amended complaint requests statutory damages of $300,000. Actual and punitive damages against the Doe defendants. Well, you're only seeking those against the farms. They're only worried about this one because it's only for them. They're not worried about Rustart and most of Chartelli because it's not their fucking problem. And then attorney's fees and costs. Okay. And even if statutory damages were limited, injunctive relief and actual damages remain available, liability stands regardless. Yeah, I don't know about that because they're going to say if you're not entitled to statutory damages, that means there's no contributory copyright infringement, which means at that point, then you're not going to get attorney's fees and costs. And you're not going to get actual and punitive damages either, Russell. And he says, conclusion, the notice merely points to a pending appeal and non-binding amici. The controlling law is Greer versus Moon. No, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not. Not right now. We're way past the point where your ruling is relevant, Russell. Where the 10th Circuit held the plaintiff adequately alleged contributory infringement and the Supreme Court declined to intervene. Once again, we're way past the point where your appeal is relevant anymore. Cox concerns neutral ISPs, not site operators who induce infringement. Are you sure? Are you sure that's not going to go and get addressed by the Supreme Court? I'm sure that's going to come up on oral argument. And this court should reject defendants' mischaracterization of the claims and proceed under the binding 10th Circuit precedent. It doesn't matter. The 10th Circuit precedent has already been proceeded under. Your case was reinstated, and you survived the motion to dismiss for that. So now we're way past the point where your relevancy is there anymore. That's just, this is not respectfully submitted, Russell Greer. And that is where we are, guys. That is the end of the Russell Greer saga for now. But this is not correct at all. This is not correct at all. The 10th Circuit precedent has already been adhered to, saying Russell's case can't be dismissed for improper pleadings or insufficient pleading. And the district court was like, okay, cool, we agree, we understand. That's all there. That's all there. Yeah, the idea he can only sue for attorney's fees seems too dumb for AI, and that's true. You're not going to get those if you're not entitled to anything else. He won't even be entitled to a nominal damage of $1. Yes, he's like, you won, I already won. And that's the problem. Russell Greer thinks this is a win. But all he's entitled to is, he's entitled to start the race, and then he's entitled to try to go all the way to the end. But all he's entitled to is get on the starting line. He's only entitled to get on the starting line. Russ Hart's suit can't be dismissed. I agree. It can't be dismissed, but it can be dismissed for his sanctions. It can be dismissed for all kinds of shit. But yes, we're dealing with Russell. He's a retard. But he is correct. Yes, he's sufficiently pleaded. He survives a motion to dismiss under Rule 12b-6 for now. But he may end up filing a claim upon which relief cannot be granted later. It's just for right now, this is where Russell's at. Like, he's barely hanging on, and he may not understand that, or, I think he can understand it. I think that's really his biggest problem. Let's see here. Did I get yes, he goes, Quack, please write my legal documents. Yes. Mr. Jazz says, my Pomeranian weighs under 8 pounds. Half of that is fur. Well, probably, yes, for a Pomeranian, 100%. 100%. All right, guys, but yeah, that is it. And I think the court, if they're smart, they'll take advantage of this, because this means oral arguments won't be held until early next year. And then it's going to be a couple more months before they come up with a decision. So maybe like July, August time, we'll have a ruling. It's not like this is not like any of the Trump cases where it's like, oh my God, we need to have a discussion right now on this. We need your filing, Supreme Court. That's not a problem here. So that's kind of the neat stuff. So that is the interesting thing here. Are you keeping up with Acer Thorn? Yes, it's getting that one I really need to get caught up on. The farm stuff is kind of quieted out, but yes, he's suing Sid Alpha still, and everybody else involved. So there's a lot there. If they do dismiss, I could formulate his appeal. But yeah, no, I need to get caught up on the Acer Thorn stuff. There's just so much shit. He's suing Kurtosis. He's suing a guy in Brazil. He's suing Sid Alpha. And he's still fighting through all the bullshit that he's made. But I think the court's going to want to get rid of this. And you know what? If the court basically puts that on hold for a year, you know what the judge is going to do? I don't have to read anything about this until the Supreme Court comes back. Not till July. And you know what he's going to do? So, yes, I think this is going to happen. Yes, Sid hired half-Asian lawyer Bill Richmond last time. And for some reason, the guy pissed away all his fucking money, which seems real sketchy to me. And then he's like, oh, I can't represent you there anyway. Sorry. Something's fucking weird with that whole story with Sid Alpha and the money that he spent. So I don't know. Like I said, something weird happened there. And Campsite Z, I was going to bring this up, but we're going to get to it. It says, I have a clip of U.S. veteran. It's not just U.S. veteran. Valhalla VFT is a, former Special Forces guy. So it's a lot more than just a veteran. He's agreeing that a 22-250, which is a very high-powered, nice varmint round. It's like a fucking laser gun, by the way it shoots. Would be a possible scenario for no exit wound, so technically a possibility. Could he have used like a 30-06 accelerator? I mean, like theoretically, yeah, he could have used like a 30-06 accelerator or like a slap round. But you would generally only want that kind of stuff for like armor piercing capability. The idea that for Charlie Kirk, and the idea is there was no exit wound, the bullet didn't continue on. The medical's like his body was like made out of steel. No, it's just a 30-06 round is going really fucking fast. What's the muzzle velocity of a 30-06? Muzzle velocity is, hold on here, chat, that didn't work. 30-06 muzzle velocity is up to 3,000 feet a second. Okay, so in miles per hour, that's up to about 2,000 miles an hour. So it's a 180 grain piece of lead and copper going 2,000 miles an hour, and literally you go, stop. The deceleration, just in physics alone, is going to destroy that item, very likely, if it decelerates too fast. That's one of the problems of why bullets break up. They're encountering hard things and whatnot, but the massive deceleration, it's just like falling. What kills you? The fall doesn't kill you. The sudden stop kills you. The same thing for a bullet. A bullet's traveling 2,000 miles an hour, and you stop it within like 2 or 3 inches. Guess what happens? It's not going to survive. There's also issues of the neck. You've got blood. You've got a lot of soft tissue. There's hydrostatic shock. You've got the spine right there. It looks like in Charlie Kirk, it kind of went in like right here. So you've got like the clavicle. You've got the spinal area. There's a lot of things that can happen to a bullet. And the other big thing is when you shoot, and Valhalla would be a guy, he's definitely probably killed people doing his job in the army. When you shoot people, it's fucking weird. Bullets do weird shit when you shoot people. Bullets do weird shit when you hunt deer. You can shoot a deer and the bullet, a lot of times goes straight through. That's not always the case. And with people, that's not always the case. Bullets do bounce around. They do deviate. They can deflect off stuff. So, bullets, when you start shooting things, bullets are weird. Like, you hear stories about, like, guys in the, the War on Terror been shot through their Kevlar helmet, and guess what happens? The bullet skitters along in the helmet and comes out the other side, and the guy's got, like, a split open head. Sometimes the bullet goes through the helmet and kills them. You can shoot people in the head, and the bullet, glances off. I mean, this is a helmet you're wearing. Sometimes the bullet basically decompresses against the skull. Sometimes it blows your head off, which is a very common answer. When you're shooting into the soft tissue, bullets can do all kinds of weird things. Do I think this guy had this idea of a 30-06 accelerator or shooting 30-06 slap rounds? No. I highly doubt it. That is way more sophistication than you can imagine for a guy using, like, basically it sounds like some sort of sporterized Mauser thrown into a stock with some shitty 3 to 9 power scope on it. I mean, he says it's a $2,000 scope, but there's no way that guy's using a fucking Night Force or a Swarovski on that. That's going to be some jerk off, couple $100 scope. Like, the fact this guy's using, like, where would he get a hold of? Like, he's not the type of person that would get a hold of those. And, there's better odds he would get 30-06 black tip. And if you really wanted to cause damage, I mean, I'd use that instead. Because if Charlie Kirk's wearing armor, he's not wearing plates. He'd be wearing a soft vest. If anything, and he wasn't wearing body armor that day. There are pictures of him walking around with just a t-shirt on. So he wasn't wearing a vest. But yeah, you only want the acceleration for armor penetration because speed is what defeats armor. In that situation, you're not shooting like a tungsten sabot round, but you are using the advantage of a smaller diameter bullet in the 30-06, casing and cartridge to go down the barrel, kind of like a sabot, but you're not using the enhanced ability of like a tungsten dart. You're just using speed to cause damage. And, like I'm betting if it really was a 30-06, he probably got shot with basically like hunting ammunition, guys. What's the most likely outcome? Dude went to like fucking, the hunting. He went to like academy or whatever, bought some like fucking core locked 30-06 fucking hunting ammunition, shot Charlie Kirk, and that shit expanded inside and fucking killed him. And the hydrostatic shock probably went up into his brain and severed the brain stem and caused Charlie Kirk all kinds of fatal injury. I'm sure that shit fucked him up. Probably almost took his head. Maybe even internally decapitated Charlie Kirk. But that's probably what happened. That's my theory as to what happened there. Yeah, he went to Bass Pro Shops. Sure. Yeah. He went soft point ammunition. Yeah. Basic hunting ammunition. So. Yeah, look up a 7N6 cutaway. I agree. So, they didn't do an autopsy. I thought somebody had. After it says, does acceleration just describe the change of velocity? Well, I mean, yes, as you shoot the fastest the bullet is going is at the muzzle. And as it's going along, yes, it's going to start losing speed. It's also going to start falling. That's true because there's nothing else propelling it up. So it's going to start falling, but it's also losing speed. But the amount of speed it loses in 150 yards is minimal. Okay, so maybe it's going 2,700, instead of 2,000 miles an hour, it's going 1,600 miles an hour. It's still going way faster than that. I don't know the math. But in 150 yards, you're not losing that much velocity. I mean, the thing is still booking it. And, handgun ammunition goes like 45 ACP goes barely over the sound barrier. If you're in terms of how fast it's going. So, there's a lot of range there. You don't have to be going that fast to put a hole in people. It helps, but you don't have to be going super fast. It's negative acceleration, it's deceleration. So when you hit the person, you're decelerating. There's no such thing as deceleration. I hate being autistic about it. It's acceleration. Okay, fine. You're accelerating the opposite direction. You're not accelerating in an opposite direction, though. That would be going, if you're going like this and then going, whoop, like that's an acceleration. You're not. It's literally going, stop. So I don't know. Fuck you. I'm not physics. Yeah, $250 tops. Probably some Loophole or Redfield or Simmons scope if it's out there. The guy probably didn't know 30-06 is different velocities based on maker. Yeah, like that's what I think. I mean, but really, when you're grabbing any of the 30-06 ammunition available, it doesn't fucking matter. Now, yes, you're getting like M80 ball, you're getting 30-06 black tip. Yeah, those are going to be things that are important. Or you're getting a ballistic tip, you're getting VMAX ammunition, you're doing like some Sierra Match Kings, or you're doing some Berger like low drag bullets. Yeah, all that stuff really matters if you're doing all that stuff, you're taking a shot from a lot farther than 150 yards away, and you would have had a better game plan because you would have thought about this a lot more. So yes, we're not talking about fucking Billy Lee Swagger here. We're not talking about Bob the Nailer. Yeah, he was probably basic bitch FFJs. No, he was using hunting ammunition. I guarantee it. I guarantee it's hunting ammunition. Yeah. I guarantee it. Yeah, it's still over 2,400 feet per second easily. Yeah, and that's the thing. 30-06 is going to be hauling ass at 200 yards. And yeah, at 1,000 yards, it's still supersonic. So, yeah, and he had a long enough barrel length. And yes, 34.2 inches per second or feet per second squared is a drop. Yes, 9.8 meters per second squared is the rate of drop. So changes speed over time. Acceleration vector is negative, but the velocity is positive. Okay, Sean and physicist. You're not a physicist, so fuck you. Impulse is the derivative of acceleration. All right. Charlie could have been layering level 4 plates and it would have been zero difference given he got shot in the neck. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Chugi's saying that there's an idea that he didn't have an exit wound. Where the news come from, the idea that kind of ammo. You know, it's all just about the basic idea of the different theories about why there isn't an exit wound and using basically a hypervelocity thing like a slap round or an accelerator round. Yes, the idea that bullet when it hits is going to break up in a million pieces. So, amateur iconoclast I know a bullet that went through a dude and turned right midair and then left midair again and then went through another dude. Oh God! Don't start with the magic bullet shit. You know why the magic bullet thing is bullshit? Do JFK crouch down and do Governor Conley crouch down. And guess what? The bullet goes right through him because it goes through all the things he's crouched down thinking they're trying to kill him. That's why the magic bullet theory doesn't work. If you have Governor Conley crouched down, the bullet goes on a proper trajectory. You took too much Tylenol today? Yes. Are we going to do model stream? Yes, we are going to go do some model stuff here in a minute. Yeah, air friction is negligible at that distance, yeah. There's no Coriolis effect. There's nothing you have to fight. So, my best bet, it got lodged in his spine. I mean, sure. Could it hit the bone? It could have just, if it was, hunting ammunition, it's going to decelerate and it's going to expand. I mean, we don't really know. But that's what I'm thinking. The driver shot JFK. No, but I don't necessarily think it's wrong that one of the Secret Service agents may have accidentally shot him in the head. So, let's see. Russell Greer model when, yeah. Connolly's seat was lower, yeah. Yeah, it was. On top of everything else. Is that confirmed I'm a flat earther? Accidentally, yes. No, it was the guy in the grassy knoll. I think there was more than one shooter. I mean, I tried that JFK Reloaded game. It's really fucking hard to kill JFK. It's really hard to do it the way he did it. I mean, in fact, when that game was created, nobody could do it. Nobody could reenact it for the prize money. Spontaneous cranial evacuation. Yes, the Coriolis effect is real, but at 150 yards, it's not anything that you would have to worry about at 150 yards. If you're on fucking Jupiter, yes, you would have to worry about it. But the Coriolis effect is something when you're going out to ELR, you're doing extreme long range. So time isn't real. Well, of course, what is time? All right, guys, I think that's it for us tonight. But yes, the 30-06 accelerator with the 55 grain 224 bullet is 4,000 feet a second. Yeah, it's hauling. That's a lot of horsepower rolling down the road. You still have a partial box of 30-06 accelerators. They sound great, but they aren't very accurate. Well, yeah, but that's also, you have to think about the time frame. Today, we could make really good 30-06 accelerators. Like if people started, like if the slap rounds came back in the style, and I'm not talking about the shit Kentucky Ballistics tried to shoot, but like they made 30-06 slap rounds for a while too, or 308 slap rounds. Think about today with modern technology, we can make really good stuff. We can make really, really good stuff. So, yeah, I'd rather have an 110 grain 30-06 going 3,300 feet a second. I agree. Or I'd, do 180 grains. 180 grain. I mean, fucking 180 grain federal, bonded. Like, hold on here. Let's see. What could you do? What would I do if I went a 30-06 hunting round? What would we? Let's just Google some basic selections. Let's see what we can get on Spring or Midway USA. Yeah, you can get 100. You get a Hornady interlocked jacketed soft point. You know, get some Remington core locked jacketed 125 grain core lock. Shit'll fuck you up, man. If you hit a person with it, it'll take down fucking all the big game in North America with that. You can 30-06 is suitable for hunting everything in North America. You could take that to Africa and hunt a lot of things in Africa with it too. You know, you get some Winchester silver tip, 180 grain, dude, that'll fuck you up too. Like all this shit's gonna fuck you up. You know, I can't show you, but I'm just reading aloud here, chat. Let's see here. Yeah, use federal gold match. Yeah, but I doubt this guy's bringing for FMJ ammo. Yeah, 165 grain too. Yeah, sure. Yeah, you kill so many deer with 180 grain core. Yeah. You know how many deer, mule deer, elk, in other game in America have been killed with a 180 grain 30-06 that's core locked with a soft tip? A gajillion. You know how many animals in Africa and around the world have been killed with it? A shitload. So, yeah. It's probably some old rounds that were with the gun. Yep. I agree. But I'm just like perusing. You know, you have federal bonded 30-06, 165 grain jacket, you know, soft point. You could do some Barnes, you know, TX, VOR TX, and get the Vortex there. You get the triple shock, you know, with a lead-free tip. You get a polymer tip. You know, Hornady performance. You know, there's all kinds of shit out here. You could do some Norma 30-06 bonded there with a nice ballistic tip on it. I mean, there's all kinds of shit you would buy that would be totally perfect. You could get some Berger VLD, which are very low drag bullets, are specifically designed for long range shooting. And that's different than just like a bow-tailed round. So, was it 30 that it was 30-06 or however you type? Because many people think it doesn't make sense. Yes, it's 30-06 is the easiest way to write it. So, yeah, regular soft points are for people. Bonded bullets are for elk and bigger. Yep, I agree. But I mean, everything nowadays is pretty much bonded or core locked or something. You know, that's because it's all about maximizing the bullet retaining energy. Yeah, like I said, I've said this before. It's 140 yards. They're not shooting F class. They're not shooting F class, NRA F class, which I really want to do at some point. I've seen people do it, and I'm like, it sounds like a lot of fucking fun. Because it has all the fun parts of ELR, you know, extreme long range, and also like FUDs don't do it. So I love how Twitter magically became bullet experts overnight. Well, I mean, because a lot of people, that's what the internet does every time. The internet does that every time. And the most basic answer is when you shoot people, bullets do weird shit because it's all at high speed. And that's a very common thing. Bullets do weird shit when you shoot people. So you want to get into long range. You live in a very good part of the country for that. You've got BLM land all around you now. So yeah, I think we're all set. The longest range around me is 100 yards. There's a couple ranges near me that are pretty long range. They do like 800-900 yards. If you go down southern Ohio, they have what's called Thunder Valley. They do like mile matches with like 50s and 338s. And then the range I used to go to when I lived out in Toledo, they had like 100 range. They have like 100. They have like 100-yard range, but it's like it's 100 yards by 100 yards. It's really big. It's a general purpose range. Like you could do all kinds. You could do like carbine classes on it. It's pretty big. Then we also had like a 500-yard range and a 300-yard range. Pretty dope. Yeah, people are not a homogenous material. And even if they were, shooting things when bullets hit something, it's not always predictable. You can have some idea of what's going to happen, but you shoot a steel plate, it could go through it or it could ricochet. It could ricochet and come back at you. You don't know what's going to happen. Shooting things is a very unique thing. So, there are ranges in Idaho that have 500-yard distances. You live where there's BLM land where you can just go set up and shoot at 1,000 yards. You can go find a place to just start shooting. Like it's like literally it's federal land, man. But yes, you could join a range somewhere. So, all right, chat. But with that said, we are gonna. Ooh, it's already midnight. We'll try to work on a helicopter for a little bit. I know there's no casino on tonight, but we'll entertain ourselves. And I will see you guys over on the model stream here in about 10 minutes. I need to get set up and clear off the desk. So, I don't know what we're gonna work on tonight. Don't know. We'll come up with something. Chat. We'll work on something tonight. I just don't know what it'll be. So let's see here. Yes, the high desert is one big range. How's your airbrush? I think it'll work better now. You want to work on the Blackhawk? We'll work on the Blackhawk. Meme is trying not to get smashed currently. You mean like he doesn't want to have sex with his girlfriend? He's gay, chat! He's gay! Or is he trying not to get smashed in dinosaurs? Although, to be fair, Meme is always gay. So, I guess. All right, chat. So, it is 12. There we go. Thumbnail. Modelos. Gotta grab the thumbnails for this. All right, we're gonna get back to this there, and we'll see it there. Let's see here. Mindset gay or just regular gay? Yes. Dino Smash, there we go. Oh, he's playing Silk Song again. Yeah, he's trying to get his fill on. I would like to see you paint Sylvia Russian armored cars like BRDMs and BTRs. Well, yeah, I mean, we can do that at some point here. We can do that at some point. I mean, if I could find somebody who can get me some like 3D printed like BRDMs or BTRs or BMPs, that would probably be the easiest way to do it, because otherwise you got to like build them, and the model kits for those are not always the cheapest. What do I think of long slide Glocks like the G17L? I've only shot one like once or twice. Like, it's neat. They have a purpose. Like, I don't have one, but I think they're okay. They're cool. It's a Glock. There's nothing wrong with it. What's not to love? So, chat, I will see you guys shortly. And just remember, till next time, just because you did it doesn't mean you're guilty. And Russell Greer, Suffa Russell, you're going to get a big surprise, I think. Let's hope the case gets stayed for a year. That'll be fun. Anyways, chat, have a great night, and I will see you guys soon.
Weapons, blacksmithing, and models of planes, esoteric works, and even some trains. Much merriment had while drinking White Claws, tips on hunting, and even talking the law. Whatever you do, just don't talk to cops, even when they nab you on illegal stops. Just 'cause you did it doesn't mean you're guilty, but please talk to a local attorney. Was that the fact?